I took a nap, I got up, I had something to eat, and I wanted to show you my face. So what they're saying is, finally, they seem to be making some sense. They're saying it's going to be hard for me to work if my face looks like this. Yeah. It's also hard for me to work if I can't move like I used to, and if I can't speak. So they said, we thought you worked in some sort of office or somewhere where you weren't around people. That's my point. How were they always watching me if they don't know anything? They don't know anything. So they said, when I'm trying to say some things without talking about other people, and trying to find a way of saying it. So I want to tell you guys what they were telling me. They said, I told a little cousin years ago that I wouldn't be her friend anymore. That was not what I said. That wasn't what I said. They said that I told you in a previous video that I used to get things from the big high-end department store I worked to give to my mom, to give to someone else. And I said to my mom, could you say it comes from me? They said, why would you want your mom to say that? I don't think there's a problem with that. They said, I used to badger my mom. I did not badger my mom. My mom and I are each other's best friends. My mom has other best friends, but I'm one of her best friends. She's one of mine. We're always together. People used to see us together and say, oh, you guys are always together and we look alike. So they would say, oh my goodness, you guys look so much alike. Oh, that was another lie they said. They said I was adopted. Everyone knows I'm not adopted. They said I used to throw things at my mom. I didn't throw anything at my mom. They said I was so mean to my mom. I wasn't mean to my mom. What else? What was the other thing? I'm trying to get through the whole list, because then after I go through the whole list, usually what they'll do is say, oh yeah, you're right. Or they'll say, oh, this is wrong or that's wrong, as though they know more than I would know. They said I would do or say things out loud in this apartment and I didn't know anyone could hear. Well, in an apartment building that echoes, this is a fireproof building. Of course, people will hear you, but I never thought people would illegally surveil me using so much microwave technology, directed energy weapons, radar, that it would make me look like this. So we're going to talk just logically. And I think that was the difference between what they expected, because they said they have a computer model of what I will do to predict my behavior. And I'll call this video that, predicting my behavior, which is horrible to begin with. So what they were saying, that in order to predict my behavior, they came up with all these stories and put it in like AI. And they would be able to know exactly what I would do, what I would say. They used the phrase time me out, know where I would be. So I would have absolutely no privacy. I would be set up, because that's how their setups work. They call it street theater. I call them setups. See, I know there are terms that certain people use, but I'm going to use the terms I'm familiar with, because I think those terms I understand better than street theater. I call them setups, meaning I'm walking down the street and suddenly someone would try to set me up. Someone would try to do something that isn't normal, but it's based off their technology that they created. So going back to that, it goes to show that if I'm having such a horrible relationship with my mom, and we live in a fireproof building where everything echoes, like you can hear things all the time, why would I think no neighbor would hear that? I wouldn't think that. If I'm talking out loud, why would I think no one would hear that? What I did not think would happen was that they would illegally surveil me, that they would move neighbors in with the only job to sit around and listen to me and try to find fault or predict what I'm about to do. So like if I'm about to say the sentence, I don't know, let's say, I don't know. I would go up and they'll say, I don't know, meaning they'll predict what I'm about to say before I say it. They wanted to predict like what would itch. And when that didn't work, the reason it stopped working was I stopped using water, because I would use like, put hydrogen peroxide on a hand towel or alcohol on the hand towel, wipe myself off without using water. It stopped working. So for those folks who know that part of it, the body part of it, that will make sense, because what they're doing, I think, and I'm it's hard for me to kind of come up with what they're doing, but I'm trying to tell you guys as much as possible. What they're doing is they use the water, and the water swells specific areas, and that will itch. And if they apply enough heat or something to that spot, it will become painful. If they target like the muscles on my neck and throughout my body, they seize like this, and I would have to work it out. But if I don't work it out, it stays painful. And that's one way. The other thing is, I think they magnetize my body. So my body has certain areas that are magnetized, and when it's magnetized, it feels itchy, it feels irritated. So without the water, it's harder to do that. They use pressurization to give you, like, I call it like, you know how your ears are clogged? Well, if your ears aren't clogged, the other areas of your body feel clogged. Like my nose, I told you in a previous video, like my nose would be clogged, and then all of a sudden it will run. So those things that they used on me to hear me means that they could not have heard me the way they claimed. So if I had, for example, had all these arguments with my mom, I would have been known for those things. I'm not. I'm in fact known for always being with my mom. We're very close. And I think I said in a previous video, I had my mom talk in the background saying, they're liars. What else was it? So I was accused of being abusive to my mom. I'm not. I was accused of telling a child that I wasn't going to be her friend anymore. I did not. I was accused of so many accusations. So many accusations they have to hide what they're really doing. So they said 30. Oh, that was a big deal. That little snappy noise, those are my feet. That was the other thing. My muscles crack. So my knee used to crack before. My knee cracked. My knees haven't cracked like that, but my toes make that cracking sound. Sometimes my fingers. So they said, well, this was always happening. It wasn't. You wouldn't reactivate, which is how they phrased it, something that was always active. So, okay. So the other thing is they tried this 30 years ago. They could not have done it the same way if they did it at all, because they didn't know facts. And now, once they put in the computer what they know, it doesn't make sense with what they thought. Okay, so they said, oh, we videotaped you every day for years. Well, I worked in places where we had security cameras. That proves I wasn't doing anything wrong. They said I lost track of somebody who I really liked as a friend years ago. I lost track of a lot of people, and I think that's part of what this issue is. They said I should feel sorry for myself that I lost track of people. No one showed up when I was in the hospital. No, because I've already put out a lot of videos where I said, please don't contact me. Contact the police and the FBI. Now, for them, they don't understand. They kept badgering me to, this is their phrase. So they admit to badgering me to contact people. Why I didn't is because of this. This is the type of thing that you don't want to bring into anyone's lives. It's best for those people to contact law enforcement, take care of themselves, because these setups are, it's overwhelming. What else? Oh, they said that, what was the other thing? Oh, they said that they investigated all my past relationships. That was my point. That's what I'm saying. It's all a setup. Who does that? And out of nowhere. So they'll say, well, we wanted to create this technology. That was my point. They are saying exactly what I've been telling you. And when you say that, you say, well, why would anyone do that? And it's so long after the fact. So what they're talking about, like when they said I said to a little girl, I wouldn't be her friend anymore. That would have been when I was around her. That would have been probably 1995, 1996. So who all those years later, decades later, would investigate those things and find nothing? You know what I mean? Like, find nothing. That's my point. So the other point was, why did I get the little kids to give to my mother the gift of, like, little juicy t-shirts or like little fashiony tops. Partly, here's a big thing. I was getting something from the children's section at a high-end store. Those are the types of things that were available. You know, and that's my point. We're not talking about things that, you know, weren't popular. When you work at a high-end store, the products they sell are popular products. They're high-end designer products. That was very big at that time. And again, we're talking how many years ago? A long time ago. Probably before 2009. So then you say, okay, what are the popular clothes that they can wear all the time and still, you know, they'll like? Again, when you're buying a gift to someone, you're not buying something that you are like, oh, I'm going to just buy anything. They're not my children and I'm not around them. So I can't just buy anything. I have to buy something they'll like, their guardian will like, or parent will like, and that's available. So they said, well, why didn't you get something prim and proper for them? Who wears prim and proper stuff? You got to get something that they went to public school, so something they can wear to school. So clearly I wasn't buying them something that was out, you know, so crazy. It was something they would like, the parent or guardian would like, and that they could wear to school. And that's my point. These people are the types of people who I don't like and I don't want to be around. So they felt, okay, we can say these things and people will believe them over me. No, it doesn't work that way. People understand, because not only was I getting it from the high-end store, but I showed my coworkers, and that was part of what I said in the previous video. So my coworkers knew I was doing it so that they could tell me what they thought. So they were like, yeah, we like this. This is nice, whatever. And that's my point. I think they wanted me to be a different type of person who secretly went around looking for stuff and secret. No, everything I do is out in the open. I work at a lot of high-end places. So you have security, you have a whole security group of people. Nothing was secret. What was the other thing? I don't know what the other thing was. So those are their issues. Okay, so now that I've talked about them again, you know, their narcissism is just so exhausting, because you would just have to keep talking about them and what they think and what they want. I'm going to talk to you now about how dealing with them is exhausting. I've spent now years fighting not only the physical ailments they created, but the mental and emotional ailments that they created. And they said to me at one point when I was in my apartment, I said I thought my former employer would be proud of what I did on my Fashion Fun Femme account. And they said, why would you say that? Because it took me a long time to absorb the fact that my former employer would even be involved in doing something like this. And they said they did it because they didn't know it was harmful. How dare they? How dare they? And I would have thought that I leave my employment. To me, when you work for someone, even though you leave that employment, you would think that they would be proud of the skills you acquired while you were there, the accomplishments you acquired, and wouldn't want to reduce those. I wouldn't. And that's my point. Maybe that's the difference between what I'm saying at previous employers and these types of people. Previous employers, you want your employees to go on and do great things, I would think. Same as my schools. I told you in a previous video, I would think my schools would want me to go on and do great things and encourage me to do those things. Not want to destroy me because I just left from them. Do you know what I mean? Like if someone works with you, resigns and leaves, and then you bring that person down, it's a reflection on you. It's a reflection on you. The next point was they were hitting me in the back of my head, top of my head, and the temples, and throughout my body. So what does that mean? That means that I was fighting this, not just this what they were talking about, but the pain. And when you're fighting and you're in pain and you're trying to get people to stop and to help you, and you don't want to have confrontations where you're opening up the door and accusing people of things because of the way this was done, they latched onto phones and it was hard to tell if it's the person involved. Did they hack the person's phone? I don't have a 5G phone. I have a 4G phone. So my phone doesn't carry the sounds the right way as the other people's phones. So I would have been another setup, constantly arguing with people, fighting with people, not sure if they're involved. That's what they wanted. They wanted me to be so off that they said this was because they thought I falsely accused someone of something. I don't know why they thought I falsely accused someone of something, but they wanted to recreate me falsely accusing people. So that's what that would have done. Okay, so that explains who they are. The other thing they said was, so again, because they thought I falsely accused someone, they wanted to recreate it, which means years ago they didn't have the facts. They didn't falsely accuse anyone of anything. So they said it was not me falsely accusing someone. It was so I was supposed to think I falsely accused someone, which is what I'm telling you. This has been a complete disaster for everyone involved in this, because if you're playing psychological mind games on me when I'm ill, you're making the illness worse, which is part of what I'm saying. That was the goal. The goal wasn't to fight me as at my peak. It was to fight me once they've weakened me. So they said, well, aren't you embarrassed? Aren't you ashamed? That's what they're really concerned with, creating shame, embarrassment, anger. Part of what that also means for me is that if I had other people around me, and I want to go back to this, it would have made it harder for me. And I'm telling you guys this, they realized it eventually, that part of them isolating me helped me, and my further isolating myself helped me, because I don't have to really worry about all these other people and their opinions and their things. So they said, I always have a way of spinning things to my advantage. What? How do you spin this to your advantage? Like, how would I have spun this to my advantage? Absolutely no way could that have worked. But that's their mindset. Everything they attribute to me is negative. I'm spinning things to my advantage. I'm sneaking around doing something. I'm abusing people. I'm saying the wrong things. I'm doing the wrong things. Yet we want to reconnect with you because we miss you. That's an abuser. That's so abusive that even they're embarrassed. So, the other part I wanted to talk about before I go, because I'm trying to give you guys, as you know, just as this video is like, what? That's how I feel 24/7. What? So they said, oh, my expressions are different from what they were years ago. I never had all these facial expressions. Didn't they say I was always very expressive? If you look at the description of me in the book written by my professor, which isn't based on my life, but based on their stories, and it incorporates my likeness and qualities about me, I was always, it says I was provocative, somebody who came up with provocative questions, and I'm supposed to be somebody who had that type of personality. Well, somebody who comes up with a provocative questions and talks about things provocatively, not in a sexual way, but thought-provoking, wouldn't be someone who was very, not emotional. It would be somebody who's talking about things that could be emotional, could be thought-provoking and stimulating, I'll say. There's no way that I would have been somebody who wasn't talking about emotions, talking about my feelings, or talking about my life, or coming across as a cold person. That's what I think the word is, cold. So their own facts they're disagreeing with. So instead of arguing with me, they can argue with themselves. I was always going to be somebody, and I always was somebody who liked to talk about topics, social issues, politics. And that's clearly the character which is based on me in the book. So I don't understand why I'm now having to argue with them about their own characterization of me. So I couldn't have been a cold person. And that's the main thing I wanted to say in this video. They wanted me to argue with them so I could waste all my time and energy arguing. But why? Why would I do that? Why wouldn't I just do these videos where I tell you about them so that hopefully I can create a personality assessment of these types of people to help other people recognize them much earlier than I did? You know, they said, oh, I'm always giving advice. I don't think that's advice. I think advice is when you say you should do this and you should do that. No, I don't do that. They had me coaching at various jobs. That's not giving advice, you know. I think when I say something is advice, it's not like you should do this and you should do that. It's more, okay, this is what happened to me. These are the lessons that I've learned. This is how I did it. That's not advice. And that's the difference. I think, again, that's how they look at the world. Like, you know, they can give advice, but they don't do what they advise. I'm telling you things I've done. That's the difference. You know, I think that's the best way of putting it. I'm not giving advice. I'm telling you what I've done, what lessons I've learned, what worked, what didn't work. Oh, that was another thing. They said I do that, and that's like a black thing. I don't think that's a black thing. You know, they said, oh, I used to say I'm a B or not use B. They talk about that the wrong way. My friends and I would talk about things, and they would say something, and I would say something, and it was like something like, I'm trying to think of how it would come up. Something like, you be, we be, and that was like a running joke. It was something that happened in the 90s. A lot of people talked about that, and that's my point. That's the type of thing that a lot of people at that time period talked about, probably because we saw shows and like we used to quote movies, and IBUB would be something that people talked about back then. Again, it seems like they don't understand what the issue is. So when they're talking about, well, I'm talking about this and that, it's like 30 years ago, at that time, that was relevant. 20 years ago, at that time, that was relevant. And that's my point. We're talking about what was relevant at that time. Now, we don't really talk about those topics as much because it's not as relevant. What else? I think that's it. I think that was a lot. So I'll leave it at that. If I remember something else, I'll do another video. Thanks for watching.